Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to another question. Today's topic will be repeated percentage change. As always, I'll be going over exam techniques, how to approach the questions, and the common mistakes that can be made. If there are any other topics you would like me to go over, then please do leave them in the comment section below. If there are any specific questions from specific papers, I'll also be more than happy to go over those as well. So, this question says, a car's value is decreasing by X% each year. The car's value will decrease by 60% in 6 years. Work out the value of X. Give your answer to 2 decimal places. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to highlight the important bits of the question, and then we'll go on to answer the question. So the first bit is that the car's value is decreasing by X% each year. That's important that we know that it's decreasing, and also that it's by a certain percentage. The car itself is not really important in this question so far. The car's value will decrease by 60% in 6 years. We are trying to work out the value of X. And finally, giving our answer to 2 decimal places. So now that we know all the important information, we can try and figure out the answer. However, before that, the difficulty in this specific question is decreasing by X% each year, and we have to know how to represent that in our equation that we will form. Our answer will be X is equal to a certain number, and it will be given to 2 decimal places. Now, once we have an answer after X equals, we'll know we'll have finished the question. Before that, we have not finished the question. But how can we figure out X? Well, we know that it's decreasing by X% each year. Now, in a normal question, it would say maybe a car's value is decreasing by 5%. So in a normal question, it might say it's a decrease by 5%. And how would we write down decreasing by 5%? Well, normally we would just write 0.95. So that would be our multiplier that would be multiplying the car's value by every single year, if it was decreasing by 5%. And how did we get that 0.95? Well, what we did here was we did 1 take away 5%, which is the same as 1 take away 5 over 100, because percent means out of 100. And 5 out of 100 is 0.05, so our 1 minus 0.05 would give us 0.95, and that's where we get our 0.95 from. Now we're going to do the same thing, but for the X. So if we had X instead of 5, then we would be doing 1 minus X%, or 1 minus X over 100. Now, unfortunately, because it's an X, we don't know what the value of X is. We can't simplify it to 0.05 or 0.0x in this case. So what we'll do is we'll leave it as 1 minus X over 100, and this will be enough for us to answer the question. Now we can make an equation and try and solve it. So it said that the value of the car, I'm going to leave that as C. And we are multiplying it by, instead of 0.95, we'll be multiplying it by 1 minus X over 100. And it said 6 years. So we're going to raise that to the power of 6. So it'll be like multiplying by this same depreciation 6 times. And that will be equal to, okay, now this part is where a lot of students do make their mistake. If we go back to the question, it says the car's value will decrease by 60% in 6 years. If you're decreasing something by 60%, then what you're left with is 40%. So after multiplying the car's value by this number 6 times, by this percentage 6 times, then what we will be left with will be 40% of the original value. All right, this is very important to know. Now 40% is the same as 0.4, and because the price has decreased from 100%, it's decreased by 60%, which means that we are now at 40%. So the car value multiplied by however much this is will be equal to 40% of the original price. Now that we have that, we can solve this equation. So the first thing we can do is we can cancel out C's, because you can divide both sides by C. So we'll be left with 1 minus X over 100 all to the power of 6 will be equal to 0.05. 4. Now the next thing we can do is we can get rid of the power of 6 by doing the root of 6. Once we do the root of 6, we'll find out that 1 minus x over 100 is equal to a very long number, and that is 0.858374. And it keeps on going on and on, but I think this will be enough to answer the specific question since our answer requires only 2 decimal places. So now what we can do is we can multiply both sides by 100, just because we don't want to have our fractions, we don't want to have x on its own, so we can multiply both sides by 100. That would give us 100 minus x is equal to 85.8374. And finally, we can rearrange this to do 100 minus our 85.8374, and that will equal x. Now if you were to do this calculation, you'll find out that x is equal to 14.16258. And because we're doing it to do 2 decimal places, we would write it as 14.16. And now, like I said before, we now have something written as x equals, and that's what we were trying to find out. We were trying to find out the value of x. So what I will write down here is 14.16 to 2 decimal places, like the question asked, and we have answered the question. All right, a quick review on what we did. So firstly, we tried to find a way how we can write down the x, how we can represent the x% decrease by looking at how we would write 5% decrease. Then we wrote our equation to show that in 6 years the car's price will be 40% of the original, or a decrease by 60%. Then we just rearranged the equation and we got 14.16258, which rounded to 2 decimal places is 14.16. And that's where our answer comes from. I hope you found this informative. If you have any questions about this specific question, or if you have any other questions, please do leave them in the comment section below, and I'll be sure to get back to you as soon as I can. All right, stay safe.